Hey everybody, I'm back and talking to Ralph Orr today. Ralph and I have exchanged ideas for, we think, 12 to 13 years now, Ralph, is that right?
Exactly.
Ralph's a
I roughly calculated before the show. Thanks for having me, by the way, Jeffrey. But yeah, it goes back to, I think, 2009 or 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about
Twitter.
The change that Twitter created in our lives and how it connected people. Ralph's a person I've wanted to have on this this video series for quite a while, because he explores something that I like, and I've already used the word there, the idea of exploring and exploiting. And as you recall, the whole series here is to go back to the basics. What do all these things mean? When we talk about exploring and exploiting as a concept of innovation, what does that mean to you, Ralph? How do businesses, how should they think about that?
About innovation in general, or explore and exploit?
Specifically about exploring and exploiting. What does that mean? How should they do that? How do they wrap their heads around it?
Well, my understanding is that exploring is something that goes beyond the existing business as you do it today, right? Beyond the existing core business. If you talk about corporates, and exploiting is actually the day-to-day business, what you're doing now. Yeah. What we know, and this is, I mean, ambidexterity is that's an academic concept or notion that brings together exploring and exploiting. And this is well known for quite some time. I think it's a pretty old academic concept, which reaches back to 20 or 30 years. And so when you look at the current developments, I mean, CEOs or executives, they are aware that over the next 5 years, approximately 50% of their revenues is going to come from new products, services, or even business models that are not built yet. Mm-hmm. So there is a clear need to go beyond the core business to what they are currently doing, and think about how can we come up with new stuff, and how can we build new businesses? How can we tap into, I don't know, startups out there and leverage them for our current core business, right? And this exploratory activities follows, let's say, completely different rules than exploiting or let's say managing your day-to-day business. And this is what makes it difficult to reconcile both activities.
Well, let's think a little bit about that, because I agree with you. The exploit part of that equation is well known to most businesses. That's what they do every day. The explore side, I think, feels unusual. So first of all, what is exploring? Let's just talk about that generally. What does it mean to explore a new market, a new opportunity? How would I even begin? If I'm a business, how do I begin to explore?
Well, for me, exploratory capabilities consist of, let's say, 3 distinct competences. The first of which is, I call, discovery, meaning coming up with new opportunities, new ideas from internal measures or from the external environment, right? So that means, well, we can monitor startups with new technologies, with new business models that seem to be interesting. We can tap into our employees, into their ideas through entrepreneurship programs, idea programs, whatever. This can mean collaborating with research institutes or universities to tap into new technologies or science outcomes or something like that. So there are different sources to be tapped for corporates. And I think it all starts with opportunity generation, scanning the horizon, what is out there. And then the second competence is, once you have this pipeline of ideas, opportunities, well, you need to separate the good from the bad, right? So and this means validating them, seeing, from which can we make a business, and so which ideas have the potential to grow into new businesses with a significant impact. And so this follows also a certain process of validation, of de-risking, which is often associated with design thinking, lean startup methodology, something like this, everything that validates ideas and opportunities. And once you have validated opportunities that are, let's say, de-risked to some extent, and when to the point where you know they could be worth being scaled later on, and could be worth being put resources into them, because scaling is something resource intensive. Yeah, you need to carry away the resources internally. You have to put a lot of money into that. So it needs to be, companies want to make sure these are the right opportunities where they put the resource into. Then you have to scale them up. And this is the third competence, which also follows, let's say, a distinct competence or the distinct process. And this is essentially about, let's say, bridging the gap between a validated concept or opportunity and an established business that can stand on its own side by side with existing businesses. Yeah? So you have a real, let's say, an end-to-end process consisting of 3 distinct competences or capabilities. So this is at least my understanding and what I found to be true.
I think you've done a good job of laying out that front end. And the interesting thing to me is to take those things apart and to address each of them, because discovery and to some extent validation are very human-centric tasks. You have to have a lot of people. And so the question becomes, who has those skills and whose job is it to go out and do the tech scouting or to do the opportunity generation? Because I think in many organizations, those responsibilities are very distributed. Well, that's a marketing function or that's an R&D function. And so when it becomes everyone's job, it doesn't get done well. On the other hand, when you talk about scaling up, and I agree with you completely, that's probably one of the biggest challenges. That becomes a financial issue, because I have to make a lot of investment in something I'm not certain is going to win. You know, I'm still making bets at that point. Let's take those two things separately. Whose job is it to do, or is there multiple jobs there to do that discovery work?
I would say, whose job is it? I mean, for me, what I see, what works best in companies is that if you, and I speak here of exploratory activities in general, consisting of all 3 competence or capabilities, but also when it comes to discovery, I think you need to have dedicated vehicles in place that are, let's say, that focus on really monitoring the internal and external environments for new ideas and opportunities, right? And so this is a really a job of connecting with inside and outside the companies, yeah, with stakeholders like universities, with other companies, with employees, etc., etc. Yeah? And let's say tap into their knowledge, into their status quo, where they are, or what they are thinking at the moment. And so it's really about collecting new ideas, new opportunities, right? And this is a full-time job, so you cannot also validate them at the same time. So that's not possible. So this is the, let's say, subsequent job later on.
To your point, there's a big collection activity, and I think that many times it goes missing. That there's not enough attention paid to what's going on in my environment, what startups are out there, what new technologies are emerging, and to gather all that information is one thing, but then to process it, to analyze it, and to say these are the things we should care about. Back to your validation point, is really important, and I think it's a job that isn't done well if it's done at all in most organizations. Let's talk a little bit about scaling up, though, because now that I've got the great insight I've validated, now I've found a few ideas or a few technologies that I really want to place a bet on, to invest in. But to your point, there's a gap between this explore and exploit model. And in that gap is this, how do I scale something up and does it fit in my new business? Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, this is, back in 2016, we came up with a hypothesis that filling this gap or bridging this gap between the, let's say, exploratory system and the core business system is the actual pain point of corporate innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Is the bottleneck, if you will. So at that time, it was just a hypothesis, and then a lot of companies approached us, like Bosch and Philips and Telefonica in Europe and the BP, British Petrol, and they said, well, you are onto something here. We are experiencing the same. And why is that? It is because at the intersection of explore and exploit, two disparate management systems or completely different environment intersect or collide, which are to a large extent incompatible. So just try to, let's say, embed a startup or a venture into the existing processes in terms of quality or budgeting or whatever. It's extremely difficult, but that's what larger corporates are struggling with. So I agree with you. You mentioned earlier, it's a financial issue, because you have to put a lot of resources and capacity into those ventures to be scaled up. This is one thing, but the other thing is, so how do I navigate this intersection? Because it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you can endow the corporate ventures or startups with we call it incumbents advantage, the existing capabilities or assets from the core business, if you align the activities. On the other hand, this will not happen or will not succeed without confronting the inherent tension that come up if you bring those totally different cultures and camps together. So, and many companies try to, let's say, nurture the first or the former and try to avoid the latter. And this is not possible. If you want to tap into the incumbent's advantage, you have to manage the tensions. So you don't get one thing without the other. And this is something companies have to realize. And that's something what makes it so difficult to grow startups inside a corporate versus greenfield startups that start from scratch, so to speak, right? And this is what scaling up is all about.
I think you've hit on a really interesting point, because whether you do idea generation internally and then try to move that idea over into new product development, or whether you spot a emerging technology and try to bring that into your business, or whether you do corporate venturing and you scale up a business and then try to move it over as a new product or a new business, you run into a lot of, you use the word tension, and I think that's a really good word, because you have this very dynamic explore activity married to a very static and very consistent exploit capability. And you use one word, we use one word called financial, I'll use another word called fit. A lot of times the explore side looks at the things coming out of exploit and says that doesn't fit in our business, or it will cannibalize something we're already doing. And we know that we're getting money from this thing they're already doing, but we don't know what will happen if we bring that thing in. So there's a lot of risk associated as well. And to your point, I think this transition, we've called it the transom problem, because they're moving over a transom, is probably one of the most interesting and poorly investigated problems in corporations. They're more than willing to do some idea generation, some discovery, and they're more than willing to have a very efficient exploit side. It's right there at that gap that things tend to fall apart, in my opinion.
Exactly. I'm sure you know the book Lead and Disrupt from Tushman O'Reilly. So it's first edition was published a couple of years ago. Now they came up with a second edition. And interestingly, the foreword to this book was written by Steve Blank, who was well known as the guru from the Silicon Valley, and I like him very much and what he's saying. And in fact, he's saying in the foreword that scaling, quote, scaling is the crux of ambidexterity. So if you don't get the scaling right, you won't have ambidexterity implemented properly. So and this is exactly basically confirms what we put out as a hypothesis a couple of years ago. And this is well, it's great, but we still have some way to go. So companies and also thought leaders seem to realize this, but now we get to the hard part. We need to implement it. So what can we do about it in companies? How can companies tackle that? And well, there are different solutions how they can tackle this problem. One of them being, yeah, let's say build a dedicated unit that is supposed to bridge that gap. So that's what BP has been doing, yeah, with their business builder Launchpad, which we helped to set up a couple of years ago. But there are also other solutions like Scania, the mobility solution provider in Sweden. So they have a more interesting model. They have a more like a virtual platform. It's a kind of small dedicated team that orchestrates R&D and the field units, yeah, mainly sales. So because they are more traditionally organized, but however you put it, it's always, let's say, aligning those two camps and bring them to collaborate and reconcile their different priorities. And this is a really tough job to manage. And yeah, I think it's what makes or breaks corporate innovation in the end. If you define innovation as, let's say, bringing about significant impact from new ideas or opportunities, right? So
well,
you won't have impact without scaling things up.
Well, I think you've addressed it. What becomes evident as you look at it, it's an end-to-end process. And you can't do innovation at the front end without incorporating and understanding the needs and the constraints to some extent of the people in the exploit model. But at the same time, you can't get locked into one version of exploit. You have to be able to say, how might our exploit model change and adopt to some of the things that are coming out of the explore model. Those two groups need to work together, and unfortunately they've been kept a little separate over time. Listen, we're going to run a little long here, so any last thoughts before we head out?
No, I mean, I could go on and go on. It's fascinating discussion. Let's continue sometime, Jeffrey. So happy to do so and to follow up.
I want to thank you for your time, Ralph. If people see this video and they're interested in talking to you, how do they reach you?
Well, they can reach me via email, ralph.orr, as my name is, at dualinnovation.net. So I can give you the address. You can put it under the post or whatever, or via LinkedIn. So I'm quite active there as well, and also publish some of my ideas there. They might be interested. So just check it out.
Great.
And so happy to follow up there.
Yeah, I would encourage people to reach out. I know Ralph's done a lot of work in this idea of ambidexterity and dual innovation. So let's plan another conversation to go a little deeper next time.
Sure, happy to do so. Thanks for having me, Jeffrey. Thanks.